A belated post-fight video here, people, for the Ricky Burns versus Julius Indongo light welterweight unification fight. IBF and WBA, I believe, as well as IBO, but, you know, we don't count that. Not really much to say about this fight. Indongo, a very tall, rangy southpaw, taller than Burns, more rangy than Burns, and Burns is quite a tall, rangy guy himself, even for a junior welterweight. But Indongo taller, rangier, despite what the tailor of the tape said. And naturally bigger, of course, hit harder, and is a good boxer. He proved that he wasn't just a flash in the pan. He obviously won his version of the world title via first round knockout in Russia several months ago. And that was the only time I'd ever seen him fight. So I really couldn't make a prediction on how I thought he would do against Ricky Burns based on less than 3 minutes of action. So he really was an unknown quantity going into this fight, but he proved himself to be very formidable. We don't know how good he can be as of yet, but when you consider the fact that Ricky Burns has been in there with people like Terence Crawford, several other top level fighters, Omar Figueroa, etc., etc. The fact that Indongo handled him so well, I mean, you have to say that Indongo beat Ricky Burns as convincingly as anybody other than Terence Crawford. That's what you have to say. So an Indongo-Terence Crawford fight, I think is very viable. Why not? Indongo's got 2 belts now. Crawford is seen as the man in the division. Let's see him fight Indongo. That's a challenge right there. Indongo's taller than he is. He's a southpaw. He can box. He can hit hard. And always only got a 50% KO ratio. But as I've always said in many previous videos, KO ratio is not always an accurate indication of punching power, because it doesn't take into account how ambitious a fighter is in terms of letting power punches fly, or how prolific they are in terms of being able to land their Sunday punch. I believe that there are, or at least in my view, there are prolific punchers. That means fighters who can land their big punches on a regular basis, fight after fight, and therefore produce knockouts. And there are big punchers who are not necessarily prolific. A good example might be Kendall Holt, who was always a very good puncher, but didn't have the highest KO ratio. So Indongo was able to outbox Ricky Burns. Burns was really ill-equipped. He didn't have the tools to be able to deal with what Indongo was doing. You really have to pressure Indongo, it would seem, to be able to deal with him. Ricky Burns has never been a pressure fighter, really. He's been more of a boxer, a guy who gets by on work rate and also boxing ability. He is tall for his weight, but against Indongo, he didn't have those advantages, and he just got outboxed, outmaneuvered, to some extent overpowered. Indongo just did what he wanted and was a very, very clear winner on all the judges' scorecards. I think one of the judges only had it to Indongo by 4 rounds, which was kind of suspect, but the rest of them had it by very wide margins indeed. So not really much else to say. Ricky Burns tried hard. He can come again, but he's not going to be able to beat an Indongo or a Terence Crawford, clearly. And that's okay. There's no shame in that. People were so quick to criticize Ricky Burns after the fight, some people online, but at the end of the day, everybody has their level. It don't matter how hard you train or what you do, there are always going to be some fighters who are better than you. It just is what it is. That's life. So Ricky Burns did his best. He's achieved a lot in his career, particularly the way his career started out. Very few people would have imagined that Ricky Burns would have turned out to be a multi-weight world champion and have been in the ring with, several top fighters. The fact that Ricky Burns was even able to go the distance with the likes of Terence Crawford, given what Crawford has done before and since then, really puts Ricky Burns in a good light, in my view. Even though he lost the fight comprehensively, look at the guys that Terence Crawford has stopped. Indongo might go on to do something similar. I mean, he won his title by first round knockout. He didn't knock Ricky Burns out. Didn't come close to knocking him out. it is what it is. Let me know what you felt in the comment section below about the fight, about Indongo's performance, about Ricky Burns' performance. Can Burns come again? How far can Indongo go? Is he a serious threat to Terence Crawford? Can he move up in weight and be a force at 147 pounds? This is a guy who was an Olympian. He does have some pedigree, Julius Indongo. I watched the Wise video on the fight, and he insists that Indongo is no flash in the pan, and he may well be right about that. So let me know how you feel about all the points I've raised in this particular video. Again, can Ricky Burns come again? Who would be a good matchup for him? Do any of you think he can beat Adrian Broner? Let me know what you think in the comment section, people. It's happening. I'm out.